Kings Canyon can be one of the most unforgiving maps in the game, with consistent third parties and fight after fight once you reach a certain point in the game. And that is our focus for today. We're going to talk about the best mindsets and tactics that you need to have to just stop dying on Kings Canyon and actually put yourself in a position to win the game. How's it going, guys? My name is Valued, and if you're looking to rank up or even just win more games in Season 10, then buckle in because this is the video for you. Now, I know Kings Canyon has changed a lot over the seasons, but the general identity of the map has remained the same. It's important to take a step back and understand the layout of the map so you can better plan out your games and have a good understanding of where threats can come from at any given time. Now, this is definitely an overgeneralization, but the map has rather open points of interest and rotation paths around the outside, while the center map gets more clustered and has mountain ranges that tighten up the areas. Obviously, there are a bunch of buildings, height changes, and other landscape features that will keep lines of sight from being open. But understanding that the perimeter of the map is generally less congested than the center is a key thing to make note of. And if you want to learn how to navigate Kings Canyon and become one of the best players in the game, Imperial Hal, the most decorated pro player in Apex Legends history, has an offer that you do not want to miss.
Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Imperial Hal, I'm a top pro for Apex Legends, and welcome to my brand new Apex class. This class goes over everything you need to improve across every aspect of Apex Legends. How to move, shoot, and think like me. By the end of this class, you're going to feel more confident when you play. And you'll learn everything you need to win more games. You're going to be the one carrying your friends. I can't wait to meet you guys and help you reach your full potential in Apex. See you soon.
Thank you, Hal. So, understanding the flow of the map is a must if you want to find success on Kings Canyon. The reasoning for this comes from just how heavy third parties really are. Many teams will land either center map or land in the perimeter zones and rotate to center map. Areas like Market, the Cage, and Containment can be very dangerous areas to find yourself in just for this very reason. These locations have a ton of rotation paths into them, and you can find yourself getting third-partied constantly if you pick fights in these types of areas. And with so many angles the enemies can come from, many players find themselves dying much earlier in their matches because they take fights at these inner POIs. When you're centrally located like this and taking fights, not only do you have all these avenues for other teams to push you, but you also are making noise in every direction, meaning you're attracting the maximum number of teams possible. The audio and visual cues that you give off when taking a fight will always catch the attention of other teams, but it's important to realize where these teams could be coming from and how much time you actually have before they get to you. This prediction is really hard when you're taking fights in center map on Kings Canyon because there's so many angles that teams can push into you, with a lot of these center map locations having a ton of elevation changes and other aspects that make it really easy for a team to close the distance without you even knowing it. But don't get me wrong, a lot of POIs on the edges of the map can also have really hot spots to drop or fight at. But the difference is how many avenues you have to be advanced on by other teams. Let's take Swamps, for example. This is a rather spread out point of interest, but it has a lot of great loot and can be a great drop location. Not only will your squad have great loot if you manage to own the area early in the match, but it offers a lot of natural protection from being pushed by other teams, should you have to fight for the area. Let's say you're dropping to Swamps, and you see another team is coming there with you. You should see that they're dropping to the south, so your squad should take the north. This drop gives you a ton of safe and reliable options to start out the game. You could easily loot away from this team, rotating out of Swamps to the north and head towards Capacitor. Or, better yet, you could fight this team for the loot in this expansive area, feeling confident that you're going to have a clean 3v3. The reasoning behind this is that this side of the area is protected by the edge of the map, and the other has a mountain range that only has a few access points. Swamps is a great example of an edge of the map POI that has great loot and sets you up for a successful game because if you do not get in an early fight, it's very unlikely another team will try to third party or come this way in general. Not only is it nice and secluded, it still has access to the rest of the map very quickly. You may think this quick access makes you more likely to get run up on by another squad, but teams will rarely rotate to a POI like this because they're playing for good ring position, loot, and taking fights. Swamps is far enough out of the way that usually squads will get caught by zone and be limping their way to the center of the map if they do a late rotation into this area to take a fight. Not to mention, if they do decide to come hunt you down, you can pretty safely predict where they'll be coming from. You've got the north side of Swamps, which rarely gets any attention from any other team. Leaving Swamps, you have the passages in the mountains at Center Swamps, which have nice choke points if you need to hold a team from pushing. And you have the ability to drop into the zone from Hydro or Repulsor, which would have them coming from the south side. While this last example is the most likely, there's usually enough action at these areas that they never get the time to come into Swamps until the zone is moving. Or, if these two areas do happen to be dead early game, most teams will loot up and rotate to center map. And on top of this, if a team does come mess with you, Swamps offers a ton of buildings and cover options for your squad to plan an ambush or just totally disengage. These aspects of this part of the map are what make this drop and others on Kings Canyon a great option to set yourself up for success in the game, but also avoid the ever-present third parties if you get into an early fight at this POI. On the flip side, if you choose a spot like Market to start your game, you can get into a lot of trouble early on. Not only is this a much hotter drop off spawn, but it's centrally located and easy to rotate to from a variety of other locations. Even if you manage to win out against the other teams dropping here, there will be no doubt that a team or two from Caustic Treatment, Salvage, or even Gauntlet look to third-party your fights at Market, and as we all know, they tend to show up at the literal worst time. Market can be collapsed on from basically every single direction, and it's a smaller POI that gives your squad less room and cover to play with when trying to take a fight on the back foot or even escape. This location gives players that are rotating from the edge of the map easy access to center map through the caves to the north, so it's a rotation a lot of teams are willing to make, knowing they'll have an easy time getting into zone even if the fights take a while. The understanding of each location, but more importantly the areas around each location, is the #1 way that you can improve your play on Kings Canyon. This map knowledge is a must if you want to avoid third parties, but more importantly, be ready for them when they come. When you apply this way of thinking to your favorite drop spots and really get an understanding for the map, you're going to feel the third parties coming long before you see anything. And this will have you better prepared for anything the game can throw at you. While being smart at the start of your game and making smart map movements will help you stay alive deeper into the game, let's touch on a bit of late game mentalities that you should have when looking to win games on Kings Canyon. As you make your way into the top 10 and top 5 squads in a match, this map understanding that we touched on becomes even more important. When teams are done looting and feel good about their loadouts, this is when they'll start to get aggressive with their map movements. While you can do everything you can to avoid getting third-partied, it is gonna happen. So, what's important is to constantly be doing this pathing analysis that we just talked about. You should always be asking yourself a series of questions. Where can enemy teams come from if they decide to push me? You should always have a clear understanding of the corridors and paths that people can take to get to you. Where have I heard or seen signs of enemies in the last couple minutes? If you're constantly watching and listening for cues on the map, you can be better prepared for enemies by having a mental map of their location in your head. This tactic is used by teams looking to third party, and it's just as valuable for you when you're looking to avoid them. The last question to ask is, where can I assume enemies are and how can they get to me? There are certain areas of the map like Market, the Cage, and Containment that have solid loot, but they're centrally located on the map. Even if these areas don't have fights going on at them that you can hear, you can be pretty sure that teams are either in these areas or rotating through them at any point in the game. Obviously, this can fluctuate depending on the ring location and some other variables, but being aware of the popular areas of the map is key to protecting your squad. These types of checklists should be constantly going through your mind on Kings Canyon, but even after doing all of this, you're still gonna get third party. These mentalities are just preparing you for these situations. The last step is to put it all into action. If you decide to take a fight, make it fast and deliberate. You can't afford to have a fight last a couple of minutes on this map. You really need to be eliminating your target squad, instantly shield swapping, and watching the directions you've deemed dangerous for those extra squads. Once you've secured your area after you fight, feel free to loot up, get your best evo back on your body, and get back to the game. You always need to be in the mindset that you're under threat from an unknown enemy. It might sound paranoid, but trust me, a little paranoia goes a long way to helping you have better placements on Kings Canyon. So you might have noticed that we basically spent this entire video talking about good positioning, understanding the map, and most of all, avoiding third parties. This is because these are the #1 reasons players don't find success on Kings Canyon. You have to basically assume you're always in danger and constantly be ready to fight, or escape a bad situation. If this sounds stressful, well, that's because it kinda is. This map can really frustrate a lot of players, but if you learn to play at the pace it makes you and have the awareness to succeed here, you're gonna be dominating on this map, and guys, if you can do it on this map, you can do it on any map. So guys, let me know in the comments below how this split is going for you so far here in Season 10. Personally, I love Kings Canyon as it was the first map that I put a ton of time into back in Season 0. Right now, I'm hovering in Masters around 10,200 to 10,600 RP, dipping in and out of pred. And while it can be a little bit frustrating, it's very rewarding to come out with a win. And I know you guys can get a ton of wins this split if you put into practice what we discussed here today. As always, guys, it's been your boy Valued, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.